Welcome to Like a Bomb, a podcast about powerful women from the past and present. Not fragile like a flower.
Fragile like a bomb.
Hey, welcome to episode 9 of Like a Bomb. It's been a hot minute. Life happens, and we just wanted to follow normal schedule, so we just skipped our normal date that this episode would have been uploaded. So now today is October 28th for episode 9. I'm Bailey.
I'm Jill or Mom. Yeah, it took me weirdly a second to realize who I was. I'm not sure what that's about, but
It's a Sunday morning. Well, no, it's
uh,
afternoon.
it's
It's
like
sleepy time.
it's morning. It's like 3 hours from when I want to go to bed.
Yeah.
Okay,
Um,
right, but
I've been
that's
up
okay.
for like 3 hours.
Oh, I
We
did
stayed up
sleep
late last
in.
night. We had a little sleepover. It was cute.
Oh, was it just the two of you?
Yeah, so it was we had the matching PJs which you saw on Amazon that I bought a while ago. And then we watched the Fellowship of the Ring. We had did Friday we went and got you've seen maybe where you have the knot blanket or you have the two ends of the fleece.
Yes,
Yeah, so
yes.
I see a fin towering around, I think moving the
He's.
shadows.
I don't know what he's doing.
But so Friday we went. We each picked out a fleece. We got 2.5 yards. So we decided that last night, and this is a previous actual proper talking to you as my mom, not to the podcast of actual time. But Saturday night, it was like we'll do our little sleepover. So we picked out patterns of the fleece. We cut it up, matched it, lining up, knotting the blanket. Then we made dinner, and then prepared with a bag of popcorn during the movie. About halfway through, we made hot chocolate and had croissants. And while we were making the blanket,
Oh,
we had cookies.
so fancy.
I know, very like stereotypical sleepover, which is what we were trying to go for.
Well, that's good. That's fun. I keep looking at all the Halloween fleece and try and decide because I think in the wintertime, it would be nice to have a fleece blanket within the comforters for the spare bedroom for like the twin beds. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, the themes are black, white, and colors are black, white, and gray. So I keep looking, going, do I get ghosts? Do I get skulls? Do I get something with a little bit more color? I don't
You can
know.
cats.
Yeah, there are cats. There's one that's actually just white with black cats all over it.
Hmm.
But then I feel like Finn is being left out.
Well, there's a purple with black cats on it
Hmm.
that I
I
saw
need,
that was like $4 a yard at Joann's.
yeah, I need to go. I need to actually just do it, but because now's the time I would love to do it because then it would have the creepiness
Yeah.
underneath the pretty, grown up comforter in the room.
Uh-huh.
So, but well, it sounds like fun. I had a
Yeah. It's been
nap with
good. Huh?
cats yesterday. I had a nap with cats yesterday.
As in your cats or different cats?
My cats.
Oh, that's cute. I don't have cats, but we've decided well, after like the holidays calm down a little bit and I can get my OCD and ADHD maybe under control sometime soon. Maybe we got that cardiologist appointment coming up, so see if I can take the stimulants for ADHD to help me control that. And get the house cleaned up so we can have a cat because we were not prepared the first time we had one. And he flung lots of poop. Sweet,
Yeah.
but also evil.
Yeah, I think we have a ghost cat.
How do you have a ghost cat?
Okay. So, this is crazy. Friday morning, I think it was. So, we have the pull downstairs ladder attic thing that
Yeah.
unfortunately most of it's just insulation uncovered. So, we need to actually do that so we can use that space for things that we never need to get to.
Mm-hmm.
The walk in attic is through my bedroom. So there's
Yeah.
like a big door that's always latched and locked because who needs to go in there? Nobody really ever.
Mm-hmm.
So Friday morning, I get up, and when I wake up, I, make sure I'm alive and can see and blow my nose, all the other things I have to do as I hear Finn yelling at me through the door. And I
Mm-hmm.
open the door. When I opened my bedroom door, the attic door opened. It's latched and locked. Yesterday, I actually sat there with it latched and locked and pushed and pushed and pushed in it. It would not move. I don't know how it popped open. So after I run, shut that so the cats don't get into the attic, the girls, the boys and I are looking around and, getting my stuff ready and stuff. And then we hear like there's a cat on their cardboard cat scratcher, which is a very distinct sound if you've ever had cats that
They have
use the
little pluck,
cardboard
pluck,
scratchers.
plucking on cardboard.
Yep, because it's like a pop, pop.
Yeah,
And
humans can't really do that.
nope, all three of us stopped, listened for a minute, peered out my bedroom door, which you can't really see that downstairs. You just see the stairs and the front door. And then we looked at each other, and then we slowly went downstairs. We heard it again last night when we were all upstairs. So we're very confused on what animal is using the cardboard thing.
It's
And
Mister
there
or
isn't
Socks.
other animal. I don't know. It's very weird. But
I
the
mean,
door popping open,
the door's weird,
yeah. I,
but as far as the cardboard, Mister loved his cardboard.
he did.
He actually had front claws because Socks and Brownie did not. Not at
He,
us doing it. We did not declaw. Declawing is extremely dangerous and bad for cats. But Socks would always go to the cat scratcher and try and use it, but he doesn't have front claws, so he kind of get the little pluck, 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 but not the same.
yeah. It's a very distinct sound if you've ever heard it. It's very distinct, but to the point where the cats heard it. Like it wasn't just me hearing it, it was the cats hearing it too and stopping and going, "What is that?"
It's Mister.
And there was another sound that happened last night, and Brody and I were not going to investigate, and Finn decided to. And Finn goes down the stairs, and like the stair. I know you haven't been here, but the stairs go down, and there's like it's kind of like the stairs that were in our townhouse. Like they have like a little turn to it, so it's like that.
Yeah.
And so he gets to the like landing before he has to turn, and he's like looks up, and he like starts creeping and creeping and creeping. Like he went slow because he was scared of what he was going to find. So I don't know. I just closed my door, threw out Brody, and shut my door and said, "Good
now
luck,
you see
boys."
why I always brought Mister up to my bedroom when I would go upstairs. Granted, this is a different house we're talking about now for me. But I'd always bring Mister up and I'd drag him into the bathroom with me when I would shower or anything. And he got,
Yeah.
I mean, he loved me. He didn't play mean tricks on me like he did to Piper.
Yeah, he just really messed with her.
Mister was only ever mean to Pip. Like, say what you want about cats, they're mischievous, evil, whatever, because people are mean about cats. For one, if they're evil or they have a good reason usually, or different personalities, because they are living things and they have personalities.
Yep.
Or they're most likely traumatized. 2, mischievous is just part of cats. They want to explore the world. Mister was never really mischievous. That cat would play mean tricks on Piper, though.
Yeah, I still can't get over him sounding like he was kicked when she'd get near him for the longest time.
I know, that's a story I tell people. Is like, his only ever time he was truly mischievous was when he played that mean little trick on Piper.
Yep, he wanted to get her in trouble. Be like, "She kicked me! Mom, she kicked me!"
And you didn't believe her for a couple times. Because why would a cat make that noise?
Yeah, he was a mess. Yeah.
Yeah, but he loved his belly rubs, and that's why he has his belly showing in the tattoo on my leg.
Yeah, he's a sweet little boy.
So maybe you just have the ghost of Mister just plucking away on his cardboard like he usually does.
I don't know. Mister's not the one who opened the attic door. And if anybody out there, the 3 listeners that we have a solution for that. Yes, I know suction opens doors sometimes when you open other doors, but when it is latched and locked and I am pushing on it with all my might and it won't move, suction's not going to open it. It's not.
Because,
and it's never happened.
Yeah. My house, they don't have enough of a gap between like the carpet and the door, so the suction when the air change always rattles the door, which is really annoying going to bed sometimes, especially first moving into the house.
Yeah.
And the suction will make it slam close if it's too close, if it's just like a jar. And we just hear random slam, and then we're just like, oh, that's the door. It's just the air turned on.
Yeah, I don't know an explanation yet, but I've only been in the house since end of June. There's not a townhouse. So there's nobody making sounds beside me. So I don't know what's happening, but Finn was scared yesterday going downstairs. So, and I didn't explore anymore. I went to bed.
Yeah, I wouldn't explore anymore either. Why is my heart monitor not working? I got a new. You saw it on Amazon. I got the Fitbit.
Yeah, I saw that because your sister got some other one that I got her over the summer because of her heart stuff.
Yeah, I've been knowing I've had some oddities with it, more or less. So I figured, especially, so it says like my resting is upper 60s, low 70s, depending on the
Oh,
day, I guess, because I don't sleep with it on, and I can't
yeah.
bring it to work. Um, but then I'll see where it spikes. I'm just not even reading right now, in like the low hundreds, and I'm just literally not doing anything.
Yeah. Talk to the doctor because
I know. I had that Wednesday.
I think when I checked you last week, my average resting was like 102, 106, which after 80, my heart could explode. Yeah.
Why? Why is it like this? My
It's just
resting is within a very healthy
normal.
range for
Yeah,
someone who
yours is
doesn't
the norm.
really work out.
Yeah, no, mine's it's the things that I already know are wrong. Like, it's been
Yeah.
like this. That's why I have the Apple Watch because it can do all that stuff. And I want to try sleeping with it again, but I forget. I just take it off when I get
Yeah, no,
home.
it's not comfy to sleep with a watch on. I think
Well,
I'll
I
try sleeping with it when I go camping soon,
yeah.
but that's about it for mine. But so, now that we have our spooky Halloween October scary story of ghost cats, is your story any scary, spooky? With a
Well, it's kind of debunking something, kind
okay.
of, sort of. Well, I guess I'm just going to dive in. So, welcome. If you fast forward it through all of our chit chat, this is Like a Bomb. I am Jill, her mom, and she's Bailey, my child, my firstborn.
Your
Um,
favorite ginger.
true, very true.
Yeah.
Um, and we talk about all things women, women's issues, and just women who've done cool things or have crappy things happen to them. So I'm going to talk about the Casket Girls.
Oh.
So I've heard paranormal stories about them because were considered vampires or the vampire brides or the people who brought over the vampires from Europe because they came with their own caskets the size of a human. And like when people first saw them, they were so pale and they got blisters from being in the sun. Okay, they came to Louisiana. They get to New Orleans. They're from France. Yes, they
Ooh.
probably did burn and not do well with the southern
I've had
grossness.
blisters on my face from the sun.
Yes, it
Sun poisoning.
happens. If people have not been in the sun like forever, they're going to react worse. Also, to get them here, okay, let me just tell the story. Okay, the Casket Girls, or um, the first people who came over were called Pelican Girls, and we'll get to that. But Casket is the morphation of what they originally were. Because they came over with all their belongings in a box. The box was about 9.5 inches high by 22.5 inches long, 10 inches wide. So a person cannot fit in that.
No.
Like, no, it's not happening. And that had all of their like belongings. And it was first said cassette, and then it was cassette, and then that means cass. Now, like none of these words sound different, probably, but they actually are all different, and I am pronouncing them a little different. So it started off the word for trunk in French,
Hmm?
and that's it's spelled cassette, like a cassette player or cassette tape, but it's not pronounced that way. And then that morphed into the French word for casket, basically because word of mouth and the very different, small differences in the two words.
Yes.
But basically, they came over with all their belongings in a tiny little box. Um, they were basically suitcases. They were small because they needed to be able to carry them all on their own.
Mm-hmm.
So a little thing. So this is mainly we're focusing on the Casket Girls in New Orleans. Um, so New Orleans was founded in 1682 by explorers, trappers, and traders. So basically men, mainly males. It was the second North American colony claimed by the French. It went from the Great Lakes, so like the huge colony that they claimed went from the Great Lakes to the Gulf of Mexico and between the Appalachian and the Rocky Mountains. Um, and it was one of the three main outposts along the Gulf Coast. So in the early 1700s, since the population was mainly men, Catholic priests worried without wives that the community is not going to grow, like their family line's going to die. What's the future of Catholicism in the territories? Oh no, if we don't breed, what's going to happen to all the Catholics here? Okay, so they panicked, they
Still
freaked
there.
out. Yep. Also, the governor of Louisiana, I had it in my head. I said it in my head. I was doing it. John Bastet. He asked the French government to send good women. Then there's depending on where you read it, I've noticed is kind of who asked first for women to be sent. At first, it's like the monks. I mean, the priest asks, and they were like, "Hey, let's ask the bishop and the mayors from the French cities and see if they can find some wives." Well, those people greatly said, "Oh yes, we will send you all the women in jails and the brothels. You can have them." And they shipped them over. And of course, that didn't necessarily go so well. So unfortunately, they weren't treated really well. So
No,
one of the articles I
was not
read,
very high.
yeah, between 1719 and 1721, 258 women made the journey. 29 were from orphanages, 35 from poorhouses, 194 were convicted criminals. The youngest was 12 years old, and
What?
she had been a sex worker in France since she was 6. How did
That's
they know that?
disgusting.
What documentation did they have of that? And why did you ship the 12-year-old over?
There's so many things wrong with that.
Basically, the idea was they were happy to be rid of them. Families who, this is their brother, their sister, their aunt, or whatever. They're like, well, we don't need this tarnishing our family. Go, go, go. So they were happy to send them. Most women really didn't have a choice. They were kind of shipped over in their migration, and they were chained together for the trip in the ship's hold, which is underneath. So they were chained together.
So I see
underneath.
transporting of people hasn't changed too much.
No, it's pretty much no matter who the people were, they did the same thing apparently. Then they went from being chained underneath the ship basically to being in warehouses, and it says most women were married off in 6 months in one article, but then other articles it's like they couldn't get them married off no matter what they tried because, well, they were convicted criminals, which also feeds the myth behind them being supernatural, paranormal, because they had to be vampires. Nobody wanted them. No, they just probably had a rough life and probably just were protective of themselves, which, I mean, I don't blame them.
Mm-hmm.
So Louisiana officials were unhappy with the histories of these women, and so men refused to marry them. Okay, well, they were basically indentured to you, so they probably were happy that you didn't marry them. So then they asked King Louis IV for help, who asked the Bishop of Quebec to look for virtuous young women at convents and orphanages in France. These young women were contracted to wed men in the colonies, literally contracted. Here you go, sign this off. You're going to be stuck with this person. And the people these men, they were trappers, they were tradesmen, they were explorers. They weren't even home.
No.
They came home, protected the future of Catholicism in the colonies by breeding. So the first group of women that fall into this category were in 1704 to Mobile, and since their ship was called the Pelican, they were given the nickname as Pelican Girls. So the second was in Biloxi, 1719, and New Orleans was 1728. So these women, whether they came from orphanages, convents, jails, the street, brothels, I mean, they were basically didn't have a choice whether they were coming, and they were like given to men to make sure that their house was taken care of and the future of Catholicism was safe so that they could breed.
They were more valuable objects, but objects nonetheless.
Yes, it was. So in 1727, the Order of St. Ursula nuns came to New Orleans to educate the women and, of course, evangelize the natives, is how it's written. I was like, okay, so you wanted to go find the people who were here before you and you took their land, and now you want to take their belief system, which, if they're good for it and they're like, yeah, sure, but it was kind of not given a choice back then. Like,
No, it's most of the America's history is just, hey, you were being nice. Oh no, actually no, because I mean some of them were nice to us, but it was mostly just, yeah, no, screw you, kill you, steal your land, steal your food, take you, whitewash you, Christianize you, go back where you were, destroy everything of yours.
yep. And then we're going to give you this pot of land that is not good. We don't want it, so that's why we're giving it to you.
Yep.
And, oh, but you can have casinos. That's like the consolation prize. It's not a consolation. It's not. Anyhow, so in 1734, the nuns built their first convent, and it was replaced in 1751. It is still standing, and it is the oldest convent building in the Mississippi Valley, which Mississippi is kind of a big river.
The Mississippi is the largest, not watershed, I don't think. I can't remember the exact term, but so many rivers feed into the Mississippi. It's massive and by far the most disgusting.
Oh yeah, I don't even want to think what's in there. I've
I don't
played
even
in the
want to touch some of the
James.
rivers that feed into the Mississippi.
I've played in the James River enough. I'm good. I'm good.
And there's other ones that feed into the Mississippi, like the Ohio
I
and
know.
Tennessee and things.
Oh, I know. No, I'm good. I did enjoy going to the river when we were growing up. That was fun.
Same.
Um, but that's what I've got. It's not they weren't vampires. They didn't bring over their actual caskets, or they did not bring them over for the vampires that were here, or they did not bring the vampires over, because let's think about it. This is women. I mean, one of them was 12. They are carrying a grown person's casket? That's not, they can't. I tried thinking about it logically, going, okay, if I put my arms here, but that's great, but, and then
Wood
there's
is heavy.
like, yeah.
And also wood. Ugh.
Plus it's long,
It's
so it would be
expensive.
awkward. Yeah, I mean, so.
Someone would loot that off of them just for the materials.
But there is like a story that says, so the king agreed at some point, if the women were unhappy and not getting married, they wanted to come back. And so he said, okay, we'll take them back. And so they're at the convent, and all of their caskets, their trunks are in one room that supposedly the windows are shut and the shutters are nailed shut and everything. And the caskets are in there. And all of a sudden, stuff in the caskets are gone. Where did it go? Okay. Really? I'm sure that there's a lot more to that story, and maybe they didn't really have things in there anymore. Maybe they just wanted the box. I don't know, but they weren't vampires because they carried boxes that are too small to carry anything in other than their petticoats, which I think they had petticoats back then. Probably.
I don't know. It's colder back then. Only a couple
Nah.
degrees Celsius.
Yeah, I don't remember petticoats. I think petticoats were around, pretty sure. I feel like that's
I don't
accurate.
know, but you still got France into New Orleans, the South. As a very fair-skinned person myself, and living farther north than that, oh yeah, no, they definitely got blisters. Especially because
Yeah.
people didn't wear sunscreen. They don't know how to handle that temperature and the humidity. I don't know what the weather's like in France, other than I know it's cooler on average.
Well, also they've been underneath the ship's hold for months because it's not a quick
True.
traveling thing.
And France is a northern latitude, so the sun isn't as intense as the New Orleans, more southern, closer to the equator latitude. It's
Yep.
significant enough.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that go into science. It's real.
Science.
Yeah. But I was excited to look at it. I was hopeful that there was something to the paranormal, but nope,
Well,
debunked.
it's something spooky ish for Halloween.
They carried trunks, basically suitcases, that the word for casket is very similar to the word for trunk in French.
Yep. That's why, in Mandarin, um, 4 is their unlucky number because it sounds closely to the word death.
No, I don't know Mandarin.
I
So
mean, my best friend in high school was Chinese.
yes, that was the
So,
first person I was like pursing, okay. But nobody taught me Mandarin. I don't remember most of my Spanish. I remember a little bit of the French I did in summer school in second grade.
they didn't even try and teach us a language that young.
Well, I was special.
Well,
Also, things have changed a lot since I was in second grade.
yes.
Yes. Yes. That's okay. So that's my story on the Casket Girls. Basically, they were indentured wives without choice.
The less valuable women from France,
Yep.
treated like objects.
Yep. So, but they did were considered the mothers of New Orleans because the ones who didn't get married, if they didn't want to go back, they just got their life. They made a life.
Yeah,
Um, so, these are some of the first women in the area because they didn't even have women. They had to ship them from France.
which is wild to think about at
Yeah.
least.
But when I read the story about the first witch, so Alice, the last one, when I didn't even think about it after the first Thanksgiving, there was 4 women.
Mm-hmm.
Like 4 women? Okay. Well, where are you getting the other women from? Because I don't think they repopulated. I guess
I
maybe I
mean, they
should.
at least had some kids. Maybe there were some
Yes.
girls, hopefully waiting till they grew up to a decent age, but who knows?
Back then, things were a little different. Lifespans were shorter. I mean,
Still.
I would be elderly. Granted, my students think I am elderly, but there's that.
Yeah.
So, what you got?
Well, now I gotta yawn. Um, I'm not awake. So I went with the theme of that we're still doing October, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, health has been on my mind, and I still need to do my genetic testing because screw this. So you can already kind of go where I'm going at. October is also known as Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and well,
Yep.
we're both women, and everyone has breast tissue, regardless of who you are. If you're born
Yep.
male, still have breast tissue.
Yep.
A slight tangent before I go into the specific name. I feel you will find this very entertaining. One of my ex boyfriends, he was so adamant on calling his chest his pecs, and I went, "They're your boobs. They're your boobs." He's like, "No, it's my pecs." I'm like, "No, boobs. You have breast tissue. They're boobs."
I'm pretty sure I know which one that one was.
You can easily take a guess.
Yes.
Um, but so my person is Susan G. Komen. You may also know her name because her name is the front of For the Cure, the Susan G. Komen Breast Cancer Foundation. Because, oh god, I have their page and Wikipedia up. I gotta scroll. Um, it's simply referred to as Komen Breast Cancer Organization in the U.S. And the namesake is the founder's sister who died of breast cancer in 1980 at age 36. So the founder, Nancy Brinker, was Susan's little sister. And so I have some story of the mission and the story as to how Nancy tells of her sister going through this ordeal and watching her sister degrade and needing that her story to be heard, because many other women are put into similar situations, to have granted been granted funding and money to help find that cure. Now, ahead of time, I don't know a lot about this organization. I've just read up on it today. There's a few like legal battles and health criticisms and small little controversies like pinkwashing and other whatnot, but we're going to do the overall good of what this foundation is and the story as to why it was founded. Specifically, Susan Goodman Komen, the older sister to Nancy Goodman Brinker. Now, growing up, Susie and Nancy were, as she put it, as close as two sisters can get. Susie was the perfect older sister. She was beautiful and kind and loving, not only to her sister, but to everyone. She was a star of her hometown in Illinois, the high school homecoming queen, and the college beauty queen. Whereas
Wow.
Nancy, she put it as she was the bigger, heavier, and taller than most of her friends. She developed her own way of getting attention. She was a tomboy and mischief maker and delighted in nothing more than spending hours on her horse. So, a lot of this is humanizing her sister. It's not just a name, where most of us today, it is a name because Susan died in 1980. You were
Yeah.
a baby, basically.
Yeah.
I know definitely didn't exist.
Yeah.
So now the people, I mean, Google doesn't even have a page just on this woman. So you have to go
Oh.
to the Komen organization to find out
Well,
about her.
I feel like in the last like 20 years, the name has not been like in the 90s, it was the name. Like it
Yeah.
was the name. That's what you heard.
Yeah.
And I feel like the last 20 years, it hasn't been her name
No.
at all.
Like I had to think about what her name was when it came to me.
Yeah.
So it goes a little bit more, and all of this is from Nancy's point of view that's on their page. And so they're still best friends, sisters, I mean, inseparable. So her and she called her Susie, they spoke every day on the phone, despite the fact that she had gone to Dallas for college while her older sister stayed home in Illinois. But she remembers the very distinct phone call she received one Tuesday afternoon that her doctor had found a lump in her breast that was not a cyst, and he recommended a biopsy. So just a simple see if this is malignant or benign. And so Nancy flew home. When she got off the plane, she saw her dad waiting there for her with an expression on his face that she will never forget. He didn't have to say a word. That at age 33, Susie had breast cancer. And so she says the truth of the matter is they grew up in a small town in Illinois. They had always been treated by the same doctor, one doctor. So Susie trusted him with her cancer the same way she had trusted him with her measles. And that was mistake number one. As we know, through our many doctor ordeals, you usually have to go to a specialist for anything. Your main physician's a really good starting point, but they pretty much have to refer you for anything that serious,
Yeah.
especially breast cancer.
Yeah.
But
That's why there's
unfortunately, none of
oncologists.
them knew enough. They didn't know to inquire about other information such as teaching a major cancer center or a group of physicians associated with one in their hometown. He was their doctor, and that was it. The most difficult concept they had first to grasp was the fact that when it's first detected, the patient usually feels just fine. Usually, because usually you get enough warning. You just like, oh, something's a little odd. And so there's rarely any pain. So they're not treating it as serious as much. So Susan, as she put it, as uneducated about cancer, she opted for no treatment at all. But she was adamant against getting a mastectomy, and that makes sense too, because a woman's body being perceived as woman and female, it's tied to our chests to some extent. That's why some people want to have reconstruction and things.
Yeah.
To each their own. So because of this, the family doctor called in a surgeon to review Susan's case. So, as Nancy puts it, it's how important it is to learn from their mistake. Is this surgeon was very handsome, very suave, and very self confident. Okay, that can be a good, bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
But the big red flag that you should always avoid for any physician that does something like this when it involves cancer is this surgeon told Susan that he could cure her. Cure is not a thing to talk about with cancer.
Nope, there isn't a cure.
And Nancy very much reiterates in this the fact that it's surviving cancer, getting through it, and it's remission. There is no cure.
Nope.
They refrain from that because cancer can come back. But that's exactly what Susan wanted to hear, and so she went with it. She went a subcutaneous mastectomy, so the procedure in which outside of the breast is left intact, but an incision is made and the breast tissue is removed. And then you put an implant in 10 days later. So Susan was left with a small scar, but no more cancer. Ideally. So after the
Yeah.
surgery, Nancy and I believe Dan is her husband were at the hospital all anxiously awaiting the results. Surgeon confidently walked in the room, said, "You can relax, we got it all. I believe she's cured." Nancy's heart sank because she knew enough that the cure is a very difficult word to use in reference to cancer. If it is used at all, it's more likely to be spoken after a 5-year period and has passed without reoccurrence. So the only time you're cured, in air quotes, is if it's been long enough in remission that nothing
Yep.
showed up. This
Yep.
is not
That's
remotely 5 years. This is not even 5 days. It's just, here you go. I got it all removed. And
yeah.
so with this, Susan, over the next 5 months, felt pretty good. She was convinced she was cured. When Nancy suggested a second opinion, she became very sensitive and had her doctor told that she was fine. But within the next month, the worst nightmare became a reality. Susan had another lump, but this time it was under her arm. So the cancer had spread. She went to a Mayo Clinic and learned that her cancer had metastasized to her lung and under her arm. There was a tumor about the size of a quarter in the upper part of her right lung and suspicious shadows elsewhere. The recommendation was 30 days of radiation and then to watch it. Well, Nancy was especially tired of watching. This is her best friend, this is her sister, her lifelong friend. So she had the terror, rage, sadness, and above all, the feeling of complete and utter helplessness invade her. Of what was happening to her, and of all people, it's her sister. She's this wonderful woman that she's seen grow up and just one of her idols in her life. And it's watching her all of a sudden realize that she's fighting for her life. So she tried to keep a brave front and would often talk fans plans of the future. And a major turning point in Susan's struggle for survival came from a surprising source, Mrs. Betty Ford. In 1978, while she was serving as First Lady, Mrs. Ford had finished a successful bout with breast cancer. The whole country was shocked and saddened with the news of her breast cancer and mastectomy. Her bravery touched a place inside Susie that none of us could possibly understand because we hadn't gone through it ourselves. In Betty Ford, my sister found new strength. And she said, coming from Susan, quoted, "If Miss Ford can admit she has breast cancer and tell the whole world she intends to fight it, well, then so can I." And so with this, doctors at the Mayo Clinic suggested Susan have radiation therapy, which is, we know in a general term, just high energy rays to damage cancer cells and stop them from growing. She did have the radiation, but it was not successful in slowing her disease. The cancer was out of control, and there wasn't a thing we could do about it, but they had to try. So Susan then went and sought treatment at the Anderson Cancer Center in Houston, and she was a stage 4 cancer patient then when she arrived. So the disease had spread to all of the organs in her body and was still growing. That is what stage 4 is for her. There's lots of different levels you can go into learning of the levels of cancer, but we all know the general stages of the severity. And so they were completely, totally honest with her about her condition. And Susie was not only allowed to ask questions, but encouraged to do so. She felt like it was a team that she was working on with. And this approach was a very aggressive one. They began a saga of intense chemo. Um, the problem is with chemo, of course, you're just kind of radiating everything.
Yep.
So it's killing the good cells, it's killing the bad cells that you need to go away, but you need those good cells. So a lot of the side effects come with nausea, mouth sores, hair thinning, and often total hair loss. We see with people losing their hair. And once again, women have a tendency to tie a lot of their femininity and a lot of their identity. A lot of people do this. It's not why else would we have hair and we style it a certain way.
Yeah.
So having gone bald stressed her out. Um, and there was shock and embarrassment for her. She didn't know how to handle it at first. And so with this, there was a lot of strain on the family. Um, dad's watching his daughter struggle, but even worse, mom is seeing one daughter struggle with breast cancer and the other one who keeps getting freaked out by these lumps that keep appearing in her breasts. These end up being non-cancerous, but that's still a very stressful time.
Yeah.
Um, and so one thing that got them through it all was Susan's grace and humor. She was able to find something to smile about with every turn of the road, and her infectious, warm concern was felt through the hospital. Now, one thing they had talked about beforehand was how, you go to the doctor's office, it's all just usually some of the office, like my gyno office, is very purple and like it's pretty. It's not as cold and just
Nice.
clean and sterile, just white. So that got them down. And they would talk, once they were successful in slowing down breast cancer, they would go and make it better one day. And they were successful in slowing it down for about 15 months. But then the cancer started to rage inside her once again. So they were all fully aware of her condition, but never willing to give up or talk about it. So Susie began a perilous and painful downhill battle. There was more surgery and more chemo, and her body built up a resistance to the drugs. Her
Oh,
cancer had gotten so out of control that it broke her skin, resulting in sores all over her chest. She began to spend more time feeling awful, and we spent more time feeling helpless. So it just getting harder and harder. And after she was released from the Anderson Cancer Center, Nancy tried to come home every other week for a visit. And one particular Sunday afternoon, on the way back to the airport, Susie spoke to her again about doing something to help the sick women in the hospital. And this practically tore her heart out because here she was, hardly able to manage a whisper, and she was worrying about other people. She couldn't bear it. When her father pulled up to the curb, she quickly kissed them both goodbye and jumped out of the car. I was just about to ask inside when I heard a funny sound that sounded like my name. I stopped in my tracks and turned around. There was Susie, standing up outside the car on wobbly knees, wig slightly askew. She outstretched her arms and said gently, "Goodbye, Nanny," her little nickname for her sister. "I love you." I hugged her so hard I was afraid she might crumble, and then I ran to catch my plane. And that was the last time she ever saw her sister alive again. So after 3 years of battling breast cancer, she had passed away in 1980. And Nancy thought a lot about her sister from then on, and how could one person really make such a difference. So that is why it's the Susan G. Komen Breast Cancer Foundation, because of Nancy watching her sister fight so hard and not having the information that could have possibly saved her life. So
yeah.
one, I think, very interesting addition before I finish my story is at the bottom of the story on their page is a timeline of key events, mostly to Nancy and Susan, but also greatly to breast cancer awareness and some of those stages along the way. So in early 1950s, the New York Times refused to publish an ad for a breast cancer support group stating that they would not print the words breast or cancer. In 1969, the modern mammogram is invented. In the 1970s, the standard treatment for breast cancer is a one-step surgical process in which a patient is put under anesthesia for a biopsy and under a positive result is immediately subjected to a radical mastectomy without consultation. That would suck. Could not imagine that.
Yeah.
In 1972, Shirley Temple Black becomes the first in a series of well-known figures to publicly announce a breast cancer diagnosis. In 1974, First Lady Betty Ford openly discusses her diagnosis and mastectomy. 2 weeks later, Second Lady Margaretta Rockefeller undergoes a double mastectomy. In 1975, breast cancer patient Rose Kushner challenges the standard one-step process, opts for a less invasive, modified mastectomy, and publishes the results of her experience in Breast Cancer, A Personal History and Investigative Report. In 1980, it states, after the 3-year battle of breast cancer, Susan G. Komen dies at the age of 36. 1982, Nancy Brinker establishes the Susan G. Komen Breast Cancer Foundation. That's why in October, we know pink. After 42 years. Also in 1982, Komen awards its first research grant for $28,000 to Dr. Gary Spitzer at the University of Texas MD Anderson Cancer Center. In 1983, the first Race for the Cure takes place in Dallas, Texas with 800 participants. Now in 1984, Komen founder Nancy Brinker is diagnosed with breast cancer. And that is no surprise, as there are many genetic markers and factors that increase her specific case, because her sister had breast cancer, of developing breast cancer about 3 times for her situation. And having all those lumps before,
Yeah.
having gotten that breast cancer diagnosis must have been terrifying. And so after 4 years after sister her passed, she also developed breast cancer. And now in 1986, the first Breast Cancer Awareness Month is held in October. So now that makes 38 years of October being known pink. And in 1991, Komen establishes the pink ribbon as a national symbol for the cause by distributing one to every participant at the New York City Race for the Cure. Now, there's many other notes of when they hold other races and how many people participate, but nothing's quite really, I feel like, as important as the dates I mentioned before. So if you are more interested in a little bit of those dates of this research foundation or more of what they do, you go to komen.org. Simple as that. There's where some of my resources. And yeah, spooky and pink month. If you watch
Yeah.
football, you've seen the pink.
Yeah, we've had our sports that have been wearing like pink bows or pink bands or something this October. But because it used to be you didn't say cancer, you didn't say it out loud,
Mm-hmm.
and but this is all happening too, and the AIDS epidemic is becoming a huge
That's true.
So that's when it was. Well, it was more of a AIDS epidemic controversy more than it was dealing with the AIDS epidemic in the 80s. That was more of a blame it on people because they've done it to themselves situation.
And then
When
lots
you
of misinformation and just
Yes.
awful, awful things.
Yes, and then we get to the 90s and it was a little bit still pretty bad about the information
Mm-hmm.
that at least when it trickled down and got to us when we were in school, it was still really not the
I'm sure it's
best
still very
information.
homophobic.
It was, as I get to the later 90s, it wasn't. Mid 90s probably still starting not to be because I think more information was coming out. People were able to get that information out. I think that's the big thing that people have to think about. When it comes to things people don't want to talk about, like you just
Yeah.
said, they refused to post certain words in their paper.
Yeah, the
Well,
New York Times,
yeah,
one of the biggest news organizations still today refuse to post cancer and breast.
Yep. So that's why the information couldn't get out, because the places that were, supplied the information refused to provide the information. So
Exactly.
that was a lot of, and it's still, luckily today people have access to search themselves. Granted, what you find is
There's still misinformation.
there's still misinformation, and you're very likely to put your own bias on it, whether you realize it or not. We all
Multiple
do it.
sources, always
Yep.
good.
Yep. We all, without realizing we do it, we do things based on our own bias, that
Yes.
we generally don't even realize we have. So but yeah, I asked one of the kids why they had a pink bow when our colors are red and black in their uniform. I was like, it doesn't match. Why did you? Oh, breast cancer awareness. Oh, got it. I
Hey,
support your
our
pink
football
bow.
team just did pink socks, I think. I think my middle school and high school, I think they just did pink socks.
I think
They'd
they're
have one game in October where they did pink socks.
Yeah, I think they are doing. I think they did pink socks. So many things, so many sports. I can't remember what did what, but there was something that they were
I mean,
doing.
I didn't do anything when I was in sports in October. It was soccer. We didn't do anything. I guess because women don't need to bring acknowledgement to women. I don't
I,
know.
I don't know if that's true, but that
I don't
is
know.
the
All I know
whole
is the
reason.
boys, it was football. That was the only people that did it.
The whole reason we're here doing this is for women to acknowledge women.
History, historically, again, has been just whatever has been the most prominent, which has been football.
Well, absolutely,
At
because
least in middle school, college, high school sports.
yeah, it also depends on where you live. Some places don't care about its football as much; they care more about basketball, or
True.
like,
My homecoming was tied to football. One of my friends, the one in Kentucky now, her high school homecoming was tied to basketball.
yeah, I grew up with football being the like be all end all. But we were actually good back then. I don't think my high school's been doing so great. But
I don't know. We made it to the state, uh, what's it? The playoffs a couple times in my high school. So okay, I guess.
our we were great back then, but we're not. I guess
I
I
mean,
don't know.
didn't one of your high school alum, like the years you were there, go to Green Bay?
Quite a few people went. Uh, yeah, we would. It's a yeah. Boogie Henderson went to Green Bay, um,
Yeah.
but real name's William Henderson. Sorry, but we grew up. His name was Boogie, and that's what we called him. Uh, so everybody's like, I don't know who played for Green Bay. William Henderson. Um, but yeah, it's different because like when we came here, and everybody's freaking out about college basketball, and I'm like, I don't remember that ever being a huge thing growing up, but I could have
No.
just ignored it. Maybe I don't know.
And then I'm gonna dock where I live, so I'm not gonna say any more about college football.
Yeah, that will
My God.
triangulate you. Yeah, I had one of my students was talking about it, and I was like, "You're insane if you think you want to go to that." Because I've been there, listened to the news at 7 o'clock in the morning, and they're like, "Go to the grocery store now. They're going to shut down because game starts off at this time." And I'm like, "No, no, they're insane."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I will say that's at
College
least.
football,
I
that's
mean,
insane.
there's a
If it's
lot
an
of
SEC team, people go insane.
well, there's some craziness for basketball down here, up here, over here. But I will say, where you're at, football, those two colleges are just crazy. I mean,
I
I like
mean,
football. I love football. I think
I
it's
will
great.
say the funniest thing of football I've learned recently, or watched, because I don't watch it. What was it? Vanderbilt and Alabama played. They played in Vanderbilt. They played in Tennessee.
Hmm.
Vanderbilt won. They
Oh,
rushed the field and threw their own field post, words,
goalpost.
into the river.
Okay, Tennessee, what's wrong with you people?
I don't know.
That's
Ask
that's
Vandy.
that's an interesting way to celebrate. I'm sure Bama
So
was
your own goalpost, but
crying.
you beat Alabama into the river.
I don't understand that. Maybe that's just a tradition. Maybe that's what they've always done in the history of football for Tennessee and Bama.
No.
And if they beat
Oh,
Bama,
granted, I
they
don't know Vanderbilt football because it's UT that's SEC. I
well,
think.
Vanderbilt's completely different than University
Yeah,
of Tennessee. So
yeah. It's Vandy's
whole
got
different.
money.
Yeah, that's a whole different makeup of students.
They got a
Um,
good taco place though, next to Vandy.
I don't know. I saw it, didn't I? Didn't we? Was it raining? Yeah, I think so.
I don't think I showed you the taco place.
No, the Vanderbilt.
I
Vander.
don't think we've all paid that much attention.
I can't remember. That was a long time ago. Okay,
It wasn't
well,
that long ago.
in old people lady years, it is.
No, and technically older years, 2 years is not that long.
My memory, it's a long time.
I guess. But yeah, this is October 28th. Have a good Halloween and be prepared
Go,
for election. Go out and
yes.
vote. Dear God. There's
Google,
swing
learn
states of North
things.
Carolina, Pennsylvania. I don't remember the rest, but I mostly focus on North Carolina.
I have to work the election, the setup the day before, and the afternoon and evening the day of. I'm a little nervous. It's okay. Nah, it's okay. It's a public school. There's no. I'm hoping it'll be fine. But we'll see. Go educate yourself and go vote and go do something extraordinary.